All right, guys, this is the next section for our 3D figures. It's going to be 10.3, surface area and volume of pyramids. Okay. So let's go ahead and get straight to the formula. The surface area for a pyramid is going to be 1/2 capital P times L plus capital B. Your lateral area, which is going to be all your triangles, that's going to be a formula of 1/2 capital P times L. Your volume is going to be 1/3 capital B times H. Okay, capital B and capital P are going to still stand for perimeter of the base and area of the base, so that's not going to change. The new variable, which is an italicized cursive L, that's going to be known as your slant height. Okay, so let's identify everything here. So your base is going to be this quadrilateral down here at the bottom. All right, so that's your base. So depending on what that is, if it's a rectangle or a square, you're going to find the area of that shape. Okay, so you'll get more info with that, but that's your base. Okay, and then you'll do perimeter of that base as well. Okay, your height is going to always be perpendicular to the base. So that's that green segment right there. So I'm going to label that H. So H is your height. Now sometimes the height is also displayed out here like this. Okay, so it could also be displayed out there. All right, so your height is perpendicular to the base always. So let's actually write that down. Height perpendicular to the base. And your slant height, that's this new one, okay? So your slant height, I'm going to highlight in blue. This is going to be your slant height. And so I'm going to label that L. Okay, so that is your L. Now, I'm going to also label these red segments right here and make it known that the red segment, which is here and here, and then there's one in the back that you can't really see, okay? Those red segments are called your lateral edges. Your lateral edge is not the same as your slant height. Okay, your lateral edge is not the same as your slant height. Okay, mainly because when you see this right triangle right here, the red segment is the hypotenuse and the blue segment is one of the legs. So the lateral edge is not equal to the slant height. Okay, so if you feel like you need to write that down, write that down. Lateral edge not equal to L. Okay, so that's pretty much everything you know to plug into the formulas. Okay, now we have this weird pyramid over here. Okay, this is a non-regular base. Okay, so you can clearly see that this pink base is some form of a rectangle or parallelogram. Okay, so it's a non-regular base. When you have a non-regular base, you do not want to use that formula. So I'm going to highlight that in yellow. Get my colors right. Okay, so that is a non-regular base, and I'm actually going to add some exclamation points to that because you do not want to use the formula. Okay, now let me tell you why. Okay, you have this red triangle right here. And so then you have a particular base. This slant height is going to be different from this one because it has a different base. I'm going to kind of call that L1. Okay, this blue triangle over here has a different base down here, so it's much smaller. So this is going to be a different slant height. So I'm going to call that L2. So when you have two different slant heights, you cannot use the surface area formula or lateral area. Okay, so I'm going to throw that in there also. Okay, or lateral, because they both have a slant height. So the way you want to do this one is you want to find each piece at a time. So the easiest face to find first is your rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to find the area of the rectangle. Just draw a rectangle. So you're going to find the area of that. Then I'm going to use my colors again, and I'm going to find the area of the red triangle. And then you have two of those. You have one in the front and one in the back. So I'm going to times that by 2. You're going to find the area of that one. And then you're going to find the area of the blue triangle. So the blue triangle is going to look different. And you have two of those. You have one on the right and one on the left. And then once you find all those areas, you're going to add all of those up. So add that, plus that, plus that. And then that's how you're going to get your surface area. Okay, if it asks just for lateral area, then you're going to find the area of just the triangles, because your lateral area is everything but the base. Okay, so this one is tricky right here. Okay, this particular one right over there. So it's important that you study that, and it's mainly because of the non-regular base. Okay, so remember that. All right, let's just do some problems together. Okay, so speaking of, I'm going to highlight this base. You should notice right off the bat that this is a non-regular base. So we're going to start off by finding the area of that rectangle first. Okay, so that should be pretty easy. Area of the rectangle is just 18 times 6. So 18 times 6, I believe, is 108. All right, so we found the area of the bottom base. Okay, I'm going to use those same colors I used a second ago. I'm going to find the area of this red triangle, and I have two of those. Okay, so find the area of the red triangle, and then I'm going to find the area of the blue triangle, and I have two of those as well. Okay, let's start off with the blue one. The base is 6. Okay, now I have two of those, and my formula is 1/2 base times height. Okay, 1/2. And if I have two of them, guess what? That cancels out. The base is going to be 6 feet. The height I need to figure out. So the height is going to go down right there, down the middle. How do I figure out this height? Well, if you know this is 12, you're going to connect that piece to that piece. And that blue segment and the height there, that creates a right triangle. The blue segment is actually 9 because that is dead center, and you take half of the 18. So what you're going to do to figure out this height right there, you're going to do 9 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared. Okay, so I'm going to put that in my calculator. I believe that's a triple 345. It comes from 345. So actually it is 15. It is that. Okay, so 15 feet. So 6 times 15 is 90. So 90 square feet is the two blue triangles, the left and the right, because I've got two of them. Okay, and I use my triangle formula, and then the base and the height. All right, let's do the red one now. Okay, the red one, again, I have two of them. If you notice from earlier, 1/2 base times height, those are going to cancel. Okay, so 2 times 1/2 is just 1. So now I just need to do the base and the height. The base for the red triangle is 18 feet. The height I need to figure out. Okay, so the height's going to go down like that to the middle. And if I connect right there, I have another right triangle. How big is this red segment? Look at this 6 over here. That's going to be 3. So I'm going to do 3 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared to figure out this height. So 144 plus 9 is 153. And then I'm going to square root to get rid of that squared. So let me make sure 124 plus 9 is yes. Okay. So the height is the square root of 153, which I know is a decimal, so I could technically plug that in already, 153 and the square root of that. So this is about 12.369. And then I'm going to times that by 18. So times 18. So the area of the two red triangles is 222.648. And again, I just used the radical 153 and times it by 18 to get that number. So if you got a different decimal, then you probably rounded too early. Okay, and that's square feet. Okay, the rectangle over here, 180 square feet. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this, I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to add all three green boxes. Okay, and that's going to give me the total surface area of that non-regular or rectangular pyramid. Okay, it's a non-regular base. So I still have that 222.64770.378 in my calculator. And then I'm going to add 108 and I'm going to add 90. And so I get 420.648. 420.648. And this is in feet. Okay, so you need to remember whenever you have a non-regular base, you cannot use the formula. So notice I did not write the formula down. I just found the area of every shape. This is the process you want to take. Okay. All right, let's do one more problem from this slide over here. Let's find the lateral area of this pyramid using algebra, and then let's find the volume. Okay. So I already forgot my lateral area formula, so let's go back. 1/2 PL. So I want to make sure I write that down correctly. So 1/2 P and L. Okay, so how do I get P? Well, I got to figure out the base. Okay, so I always like to highlight my base. My base is a hexagon. So I want to focus on using that side. How many sides do we see? 6. This is an apothem, so that means it's regular. Okay, and so if I multiply that times 6, that's pretty easy thing to figure out the perimeter. So the perimeter is going to be 12x squared plus 30. Okay, so I'm going to plug that into my capital P. So 1/2, parentheses, this is a binomial, 12x squared. L is a slant height, which is this guy over here. So I'm going to put that in next. 6x cubed plus 2x. Okay, so you're multiplying three things here. Okay, 1/2 times 12x squared plus 30, and then times this. So you can do the FOIL method first, or you can distribute the 1/2. Now, a lot of people want to do this. 1/2 times that, times that, times that, times that. That is an incorrect move right there. Okay, so you do not want to multiply 1/2 times everything. So I want to show you how this is related to another problem. You're multiplying three things here, so take it back to something real simple. 1/2 times 4 times 5. So that's exactly like this. 1/2 times this times this. I'm doing simple numbers. Think about it. Would you multiply 1/2 times 4 and times 5? No, you would not. You would multiply 1/2 times the 4, which is 2, and then you would just do 2 times 5, which then takes us to 10. The answer is 10 here. Now watch when you do 1/2 times 4 and times 5. That would be 2, and then that would also be 2.5. Well, 2 times 2.5 is 5, not 10. You see how that's incorrect? So this is not a time to distribute the 1/2 to everything. You only distribute it to the first two things, just like you multiply in a regular problem. When you're multiplying three terms, you multiply it by just do the 2 first, and then you do it times the third one once you get that answer. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and distribute 1/2 here, and then I'm going to write that down. So that becomes 6x squared plus, and that's it. You're done multiplying the 1/2. Do not multiply the 1/2 times the rest of the problem because you've already took care of that. Now it becomes an algebra FOIL problem, okay? Or some people say they just call it distributive. That's fine too. I call it FOIL. I'm going to multiply the first terms and then outer, then inner, and then last. So the first terms, I'm going to get 36 x to the 5th. Now I'm going to multiply the outer terms. That's going to be 12 x to the 3rd. Now I'm going to multiply the inner terms. That's going to be 90 x cubed. Okay, so you multiply the variables correctly. And then now I'm going to multiply the last terms. 15 times 2x, that'll be 30. Okay, and that's it. Now I just got to double check for any like terms. I do see these two are like terms. Now I'm ready to write my final answer. Okay, you always write it with the highest exponent first. So the lateral area is 36x to the 5th plus, this is a 102 x to the 3rd plus that last term, 30x. And this is lateral area, so we're going to say units squared. Okay. All right. Now let's do volume. Last thing to do is volume. So volume is 1/3 capital B times H. Okay, 1/3 capital B. So capital B is the hard part. Capital B stands for area of the base. So you need to write a formula for area of the base. So what is that formula? Well, the base is a regular hexagon. So guess what it is? It's 1/2 apothem times perimeter. 1/2 apothem times perimeter. So that's going to be 3x. Actually, let me write it down first. So that way you know what I'm plugging into what. So 1/2 apothem times perimeter. Okay, so now I'm going to have 1/3. And then I have 1/2. The apothem is 3x. And then the perimeter, I already did earlier, the perimeter is 12x squared plus 30. And then the height is over here. That's your height right there. Okay, because that's always perpendicular to the base. So the height I'm going to plug in next, which is 4x cubed plus 9. All right, so now what do I have next? There's lots of different situations you can do here. You can multiply the two fractions, you can distribute, you can FOIL, you can do lots of different things, okay? So it goes back to, if you're multiplying 2 times 3 times 4 times 5, well, you can multiply in whatever order you want. If you want to multiply these two first, you get 6. Some people will multiply those two second, and then they'll multiply those two. Some people will multiply 2 times a 5, which is 10, and then multiply it by the 4, which is 40, and that, so it doesn't matter what order you multiply in, okay? So here we're multiplying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things here. So it does not matter what order you multiply them in, okay? To be honest, I would multiply 1/3 times 3x right off the bat. What is 1/3 times 3x? Just x, okay? You see how 1/3 times 3 is just 1? So ultimately, I'm going to have 1/2 x times 12x squared plus 30 times 4x cubed plus 9. See, right there, I already multiplied. Again, you can multiply whatever order you want. So I just got rid of one fraction. Now what am I going to do next? I'll probably distribute 1/2 x to this one. Not to all of them, because that doesn't make sense. Okay, you only multiply these first two first. Going back to this problem, 2 times 3 times 4. You multiply 2 times 3 and that's it. And you get a 6, and then you do 6 times 4. You don't multiply 2 times 3 and 2 times 4. Okay? It's just a common mistake every school year. So I want to keep repeating myself on that right there. Okay, so now I get 1/2 x times 12x. So that's going to be 6x cubed plus 15x. It's a binomial, so put parentheses. Now I'm going to just drop down the 4x cubed plus 9. All right, I just got one last thing to do, and that's the FOIL method. Okay, the FOIL is multiply the first terms, okay, or call it distributive, whatever you want. 6 times 4 is 24, x to the 6th. The outer, 6x cubed times 9 is 54, x cubed. The inner terms, 15 times 4 is 60, x to the 4th. And the last terms, 15x times 9 is 15 times 9, I don't know that, 135x. Okay, I don't see any like terms in there, so now I'm ready to write my final answer. And make sure you write it in exponent order. So it'll be 24 x to the 6th plus 60 x to the 4th plus 54 x cubed plus 135 x. This is volume, so we're going to say cubic units. And that is it.